to all of you, everyone tuning in or who will tune into this stream sometime in the future. Byron here, aka Maxximal, Maxximal816. Welcome to my stream. Today I am going to wind the clock back a bit and we're going to talk about the ongoing PC build, how it happened from the start through to now and what the immediate plans are for it and the plans going forward. I hope to finish as well with talking about some plans for future streams. Okay, so for those of you who have seen the previous clips, you will know that this PC build is a project build for myself and my son. He started to get really interested in computers, so I figured that rather than him continuing his life thinking that a computer is a Chromebook or some sort of tablet, introducing to how computers actually work, what they're made up with, how you put them together, so you can start life with a better understanding of computers. Now, the basic premise for this build was and still is to build it as cheaply as possible. That being said though, it has to be a computer that will last as long as possible and do everything that I need it to. I don't just game. In fact, gaming is only a small portion of what I need a computer for. I also use a computer for audio production, both recorded and live. And I am expecting to need to do a little bit of video editing in the future as well. How much that is will vary depending on my work circumstance at any time. So, what I've done and what I'm doing is saving money where I can so that I can spend money where I want to. That being the case. So, case, second hand. It is a Nanoxia Deep Silence 1. Case is getting on a bit, approaching 10 years old. 10 years since they were released. I think they were released early 2012. But still a fantastic case. It is essentially a mid-tower, but it's full room, full ATX motherboard size and enough space for all and any adapters I will need, anything I might want to put into it. Picked up this case for 25 bucks. So, I think I've saved a little bit there. Recommended retail on these is still in 3 figures and significant 3 figures at that. As I said, yeah, it will fit a full ATX motherboard. So I will be putting an ATX motherboard in. The motherboard will be a Gigabyte Aorus Elite Wi-Fi. It has everything that I need and plus a couple of things that I want, but more about that later. Features of the case. So it is a deep case. In front of the motherboard there is enough room for a 140mm fan plus a bit of space to spare there, so you can fit in most CPU mounted CPU coolers, but there is also room for a total of 7 case fans if you so desire. I'm not using that many. I'm not planning on overclocking. I'm not planning on going water cooling. Just keeping it pure air coming in and out. Keep it nice and simple and keep the cost down. The features of the case, obviously deep silence. It is designed to be a silent, quiet case. So the case is well insulated inside and out. I'll show you a side panel. Solid metal side panel lined with bitumen based sound deadening. So the same stuff they put in cars, just a little bit thinner, which ideally keeps the case nice and quiet, but also makes it heavy. So this case is 11 kilos empty. Once it's full, it will weigh a fair bit more. Not exactly a fit in your pocket and go down to play with your boys kind of setup. Not saying I won't do that, but it's not designed to be portable. If you have any questions at any stage during this stream, please just pop them in the chat or jump on Discord. If I see somebody pop into the Discord live chat voice channel, then I'll pop my headphones in and I can answer your questions in near real time. Another feature of the case, the power supply is mounted down low. So that has two effects. One, it means that the power supply is not available as an exhaust fan. Some cases have the power supply up high, so the cooling fan for the power supply is acting as an extra exhaust fan. You don't get that here, but the one advantage that does have is it means that the power supply isn't having to cope with case air, like hot case air. So some case internal temperatures 50, 60 degrees. You don't have to worry about that. It's drawing cold air in from outside. Sits right on the bottom of the case. This case will be on the floor. So it's going to be sucking in air that is round about 20 degrees, probably lower. So that helps the thermal efficiency of the PSU, helps keep that nice and cool. It's not going to be a huge load anyway. It's running a deep cool SD750. It is a gold rated 80 plus PSU. It's not going to be loaded that much, really. I'm not overclocking. I'm not chucking in the world's biggest GPU or anything like that. Don't have to worry about that. So it'll do the job. Not a modular PSU. Cables don't scare me. You've seen the side of the case. Nobody's going to see what's inside. I'm an avionics technician by trade. Aircraft wiring is my stock in trade. So making the wiring tidy is not something that I'm afraid of. Keeping it out of the way of the airflow is also not something I'm afraid of. So I really didn't care. I picked this up then for significantly less than what you would pay for a modular PSU. It's brand new and has a 10-year warranty. Picked it up for $150 for a 750 watt PSU. I reckon that's probably okay. That's PSU sorted. Routing that obviously will be later in the future. My next big concern was cooling. So trying to keep it simple, not overclocking, but also want to keep it cool as efficiently as possible. As I mentioned in my first video, one of my personal bugbears is CPU coolers. The stock CPU coolers are usually surface mount, which means they suck air in from the case, push it through, and it comes out all around the CPU. That really messes up your airflow. That's a bit of a bugbear for me. I like my airflow to be smooth because smoother airflow is more efficient. It will cool better. If your airflow inside is messed up, then it means that some of the air that is being sucked into your coolers is already heated. That reduces the efficiency of the cooler. If you can keep your coolers only sucking in cold air, that means they don't have to run as hard to keep your CPU, GPU, etc. down to the temps that you want, which means you push them a little bit harder. Not that I will. So, CPU cooler is not going to be an issue for me anyway, because I'm going with a Ryzen 7 3800 XT, which doesn't come with a cooler. It is... I'll go into the reasons why I chose that one first, but it doesn't come with a cooler. So I have a deep cool top mount cooler that will suck air in and push it towards the exhaust fan. At the front of the case, I have another inlet fan, which I'll see if you can see it. One of the cool features about this case, can you see that there? Not quite. The fan's mounted inside the door, just swings out. There's no screws involved on the front fans at all. So it means if you need to clean them, you can just pop them out. That's sucking air in here. I've removed the spare drive bays. I don't need them. The air will come in cool. I'm going to put a buffer in on top of this to bring it around the back of the GPU, which will push cold air in the front onto the CPU, which will get pushed out the back of the case. What about the GPU? I've told you here the intake fan is going to be pushing air around the back. That's where I have a lower case fan. I've removed another hard drive mount. Apparently you can actually fit 12 hard drives inside this case. That's too many. I'm not running a server. So I've removed another mount, a hard drive mount in here, installed the lower case fan. That case fan is only going to be for providing air to the GPU. GPU, this case, obviously with this removed, will fit a full-size GPU, probably not going that big unless someone wants to be really generous. I will take sponsorship. So this will suck air in, push it up to the GPU, which will push it all the way out the back. As far as GPUs go, I don't really have the budget to go top of the range at the moment. So I'm looking at picking up a second-hand, still reasonable GPU. Probably the lowest I'm planning on going is the RX 580. Still good enough. It'll get me the results I need. And then next year, when I have the funds, I can replace that with something a bit closer to spec. And that I'll get a fully enclosed one so that any hot air it receives gets pushed out the back. So this fan process becomes its own cycle here. Cold air in, hot air out through the GPU. That'll keep it nice and cool. You'll also notice as well, previous video I mentioned that I stuffed my fan speeds. The original fan that I had as an exhaust fan wasn't as beefy as my little inlet fan. I had to replace that, upgrade that, but that's not a big deal. I just forgotten to do my sums, kicking myself a little bit, but what can you do? So, as always, make sure input is equal to output. That's cooling pretty much sorted. Anyone who's interested in this kind of case, it does have room for mounting all of your cooling internally. So for those of you who really want to go water cooling, there is a space in the roof. It's a chimney. You might see that popped up there just a little. There is enough room in there for a double fan, water-cooled CPU cooler up in the top. It will mount inside, suck air out of the case, out through the chimney that way. The chimney is also soundproofed. They've gone a little bit ridiculous, but it was for the market for people who want to use it as a beefed up home theater or something like that, where silence is, keeping it as quiet as possible is the plan. As far as drives go, let's move on to storage. Storage? No, let's wind back a bit. Motherboard. Because what you're going to fit all hangs off the motherboard, doesn't it? So motherboard, I'm going with the Gigabyte Aorus Elite Wi-Fi. It has everything I need and everything I want. So what I needed obviously at least one PCIe 16 slot, at least one PCIe x1 slot. It obviously needed to handle current Zen 2 3000 series Ryzen processors. It will handle the next gen as well. But the one thing I wanted to make sure is that the PCIe lanes weren't sharing load with storage and stuff like that. And some of the lower chipset motherboards, if you throw in a second M2 drive, you lose SATA ports. That's something I wanted to avoid. So I needed at least 5 SATA ports, and I'm going with 2 M2 drives, which I'll explain a bit more what they're all for a bit shortly. So it needed that. The other thing I wanted was I didn't want to run an external fan controller. This case comes with a manual fan controller. No thank you. A motherboard can do it all on its own, so I wanted a motherboard where I didn't have to buy an extra controller to bolt onto it. The Aorus Elite Wi-Fi will provide me enough fan ports to run all of the case fans I plan on running, with a couple of spare points, so that's more than good enough, and it will control them all inboard and all automatically, which is what I wanted. I don't want to have to turning fans on and off or up and down by myself, really. Let the computer do that on its own. I like being lazy. If the text there, use it. Yeah, that's really it for that. That's why I had that motherboard. So the Elite Wi-Fi gives me 2 PCIe 16 lanes, just in case I want to chuck in a PCIe capture card at some stage, which is a probable addition. Plus, it also, I needed the PCIe x1 for my audio interface. Why? I do audio, my sound desk and my small audio interface both run FireWire. So I need a FireWire card, and it doesn't need to be huge. FireWire runs at less than USB 2 speeds, really. So at least for what I'm using. so it doesn't need to be PCI 16 or even 8. PCI 1 will do quite nicely. It gives me 2 ports. I won't use 2 ports most of the time. If I move into a house where I have my own office, or if I move into a house and have my own office so I can set this desk up as a sound workstation, then I might use 2. But at this stage, I'm not going to use 2. Not an issue. So PCIe 1 is more than good enough. So, little cheap, StarTech, Firewire card. That will provide my interface both to my sound desk and to my audio interface that will be used for things like streaming and listening through my ridiculously large speakers. I have a full PA set up. It's not getting used, so I'm using the sub and one of the mains as my computer speakers. It means that I currently have about 2200 watts of PC speakers plugged in. I could bump that all the way up to about 3000 watts if I wanted to. The neighbours wouldn't like me, so I don't do that. But Maxximal is fantastic when I'm alone. So that's the motherboard. GPU, as I've already mentioned. CPU, I've already mentioned as well. The Ryzen 7 3800 XT. Why did I go that one? I'm not gaming. Gaming is not my main thing. So if I was only gaming, I could probably going with an i5 would be a better choice for cost effectiveness. But I'm also doing audio. I'm also going to be doing a bit of video. So yeah, according to the benchmarks, the Ryzen chips perform a bit better on the variety of tasks, whereas they suffer a little bit in relation to the Intel chips regarding single core. That said, though, out of the Ryzen range, the 3800 XT has the highest single core speed. Now, I'm not a tweaker. I'm not going to be pumping voltages to try and get my RAM to run, super fast. I'm not spending big bucks on 4000, 4400 megahertz RAM. That's just ridiculous. But if I can get a little bit of a bonus out of that, why not? It's within my budget. Going to Ryzen 9, I'm not going to be using software that will really take advantage of all of those extra cores. I'm just not. So it's a waste of money if I was to go that big. There's people who buy a Ryzen 9 3950 and then just use it for gaming. I'm sorry, but you've wasted your money. Most games are single core. Even most audio and video, a lot of the Adobe video stuff is optimized for single core. So, having 12 cores, it's a waste, really. I'm sorry. Unless you're doing massive compiling or processing huge amounts of video and you have the software that can run all of those cores, not worth it. So Ryzen 7 is a good compromise for me. It does everything I want it to, plus everything I need it to, and it's fast enough for gaming. Also, because of audio, I will be running 32 gigs of RAM, because I need at least 16 for running my sound desk. I need 16, so if all I'm doing is bidirectional audio, so 32 channels each way, at 48.8 kilohertz sample rate, then I need at least 12 minimum. If I'm running a whole lot of effects on top of that, that's more RAM that I need, plus more cores that I need. The optimized effects software tends to ideally run in its own cores. So it will set up cores, and the best ones will even set up cores for certain effects that are really, really processor hungry. So you're not trying to process everything through one core. So a few cores are fantastic. 32 gigs of RAM will allow me to game. Most games really don't see a huge advantage going from 8 to 16 gig, but having spare RAM for running a streaming link as well, and having anything else going on in the background that I want to, why not? It's cheap. On RAM speeds. You will probably have heard, if you're into Ryzen, the 3000 series AMD chips, you may have heard that the sweet spot is somewhere between 3600 and 3733 for the 3000 series. That's what, that is true. That is a sweet spot. However, in real terms, the benefit gain, but going from of say 3600 C16 RAM over 3200 is only about 1.5%. So for at 32 gigs, what is around about $100 or more if you go the really, really Gucci expensive stuff, it's not worth 1.5% for $100. No, sorry. So I'm going to be putting in 3200 C16, and that will be more than enough for me. It'll cost me a little bit. It'll cost me around about the $200 Australian mark for that. I'll be putting in Corsair Vengeance LPX. Yeah, it'll cost me about $200, give or take. Probably buy that Australian. The motherboard and CPU will be coming from the States because Amazon Prime, it's just ridiculously cheaper. I can get if I wanted to, I could get a Ryzen 9 for less than I can buy a Ryzen 7 in Australia. So I'll get the Ryzen 7, the XT from the States. That'll be a huge money saving there, which will allow me to buy extra stuff like webcam. I will need a webcam. I may even be able to afford or justify the purchase of another monitor, which I really want. I'm a 2 screens person. I love 2 screens. I'm set up so that I can use my laptop as a second monitor. I could use an iPad as my second monitor, but if I can actually get a proper screen, fantastic. The monitor you can see over the back there isn't a monitor, it is an LD TV. Meh. It does the job, it's fine. It's 1080p, so playing games at 1080, yeah, whatever. But it's not a computer monitor. You can get better and crisper. So if I can get a second monitor with the money I save from other things, I will. Let's move on to, I've discussed RAM, I've touched on the GPU, I've discussed the CPU, I've discussed the motherboard. Let's move on to storage. So, most of the storage in here is old drives I've had kicking around for donkeys, pulled out of now defunct MacBook Pros. MacBook Pro, my previous laptop was a MacBook Pro, fantastic thing, 2010 model, ran fantastically, did everything I needed it to, had enough grunt to game and stream at low graphic settings. It died. It was old, it died, they do that. I got an old one that was partly defunct, Frankenstein that to keep it working. Then it finally died, so now I have a MacBook Air. I just can't justify the price of a MacBook Pro at the moment. For the cost of my MacBook Air and the PC build once complete, that just about matches the price of the MacBook Pro that I would have bought. I think I'm done better this way. So I get the Mac, does what I want, it works, be fantastic for work, and a PC that does everything I want it to, and it will become a family computer. My 2 sons will have logins, I'll have a login, my wife will have a login if she wants, and we can do whatever. So storage. NVMe drives, I mentioned I'm using 2 now. This is a little bit after the fact, but the Samsung 970 Evo Plus will be my game drive, and the Seagate Barracuda 510 will be my operating system normal drive. They're both 500 gig. Why each one? I know it's a game of percentages. Who cares really? I wanted 2 NVMe drives just for why not? Let's see how these things work. I could afford it. New drives for your main drives are always a win in my book. And so why each one? Looking at a few reviews and real world tests, the Barracuda comes up at performing slightly better at generic office work, normal basic computing stuff. The 970 Evo Plus comes in at better for that short, high burst stuff, which most games aren't really, but this will be my game drive. I run all the games off that, so there's no excuse really. So any lagging won't be a drive issue. I'm old enough to remember drives being a problem for games. And this will be my operating system drive, more than big enough for everything I need. Most crap's in the stuff, sorry. Trying to keep this G-rated. Most stuff is in the cloud anyway. Other drives, I have an old not that old really, Corsair 500 gig drive that will become my recording destination drive. So recording audio, recording video, even recording stream, if I'm recording in parallel with streaming, that will go onto that drive. It's a SATA SSD, nice and fast as well, more than fast for anything I need. I have a 500 gig high-speed spindle drive that will become my processed media destination drive. So if I'm compiling audio, pulling it off the SSD, putting it on the spindle drive, it just makes the whole flow easier. Trying to record and put it onto the same drive, it slows things down. It can get glitchy. I mean, a nice fast processor and it will alleviate that somewhat, but if I can put them on separate drives, that's a win there. And another 1 terabyte high-speed spindle drive will be my photo storage. The other thing I am adding is, I've ordered it, it's yet to come, is a hot swap bay that will take a 3.5 inch drive, will be my backup drive, so that if I'm leaving on holidays, leaving the house, all I have to do is pop that out and I can take that with me, and then it doesn't matter if the house burns down. I'm not losing my photos, I'm not losing my recorded audio, it's all on the backup drive. So that will go in at some stage soon. I do have a 2 terabyte USB drive, will be my interim backup solution, but it built in, why not? I've got the channels, I can use it. So I'll have the 2 M2 drives, 3 main use SATA drives, SATA backup drive, and it has a CD drive because, whatever. It came with the case, so I'll use it. I'm probably not even going to go to the problem of replacing that with a Blu-ray. Is Blu-ray even a thing still? I don't know. I've never gone there. That's probably most of it. If you have any questions about the build, feel free to pop them in Discord if you're watching this later, or pop them in chat now, that's fine. Future streaming plans. So what's going to happen? I will, over the next few days, be ordering all of the remaining parts for this PC. So they will arrive in dribs and drabs over the next, 1 to 4 weeks, depending on where I order them from. The big stuff, as it arrives, I will do unboxing videos, but I'll probably record those off stream and then do a live stream commentary on those videos. So when the motherboard arrives, I'll do an unboxing video for the motherboard, because why not? Everyone loves unboxing videos. Chat about it. Again, I'll go over why I got it, what its features are. Hopefully everything's in the box. I was looking at the ROS Pro Wi-Fi, but then I realized I'm never ever going to run 2 graphics cards, so I don't need 3 PCI 16 slots. And have you seen the manual for that? The manual for that one is appalling. The manual for the Elite Wi-Fi is a lot better. I'm a little bit fussy about manuals. So a company the size of Gigabyte should do decent manuals. I could learn a lot of ASUS. But anyway, so I'll do an unboxing on that. What else will be coming? The CPU. Is it worth doing an unboxing for a CPU that doesn't come with a cooler? Why not? May as well do it. I will be doing an install video for everything as it comes in. When it comes to the motherboard, I will do that offline as well. I want to get my son involved in all of the install from here on. I've done the fans and stuff because it's going to get 1 pair of hands in spots, but I want him involved in assembling the rest of it. So I will record that, but then I will do a live stream where I comment on that video. It means that I can, for example, when I'm building with my son, it doesn't matter if I release personal information about him, because you won't be hearing that audio on the stream. It'll be just me talking over the top. My wife is really fussy about not sharing our children's names or details on social media. I'm less fussy, but I can see the value enough that I'm more than happy to honour her wishes there. So I'll record that off stream and then do a live on that. And then I'll do the same thing at the end of the process with the first boot up. So going through the initial boot up, the power up, going through BIOS, setting all of that up. So that will probably be, we'll see how that goes. It will probably be camera over the shoulder, aimed at the monitor. I'll have that nice and high so that hopefully my head doesn't get in the way. And same deal, my son and I can chat, so you won't, when it comes to the streaming that, you won't hear any personal details about that, so I can't get into trouble. And it also means that I can fast forward the really boring bits. So if I get lost in a menu loop somewhere, I can cut that out and it makes me look smarter. I'm always keen for that. And then hopefully after that, I will start streaming regularly. My wife works Wednesdays, which is why I'm streaming now. So Wednesday morning will probably become my regular streaming time. And then if my computer's up to it, I may stream in the evenings while I'm playing and watching Dobby stream. If you're not following Dobby, mate, you should be. So search him out on Twitch. He's a good bloke, good streamer, lots of fun. He'll have a barrel of laughs. So what I'll probably do is, in the evenings, it'll just be, you can watch me play and then decide that you don't want to watch me play anymore. I'm not going to be talking much because, mainly because if you haven't noticed, I am currently sitting in the corner of my dining room. So in the evenings, my boys are in bed. They're still both young. They're in bed. I tend to talk louder when I have headphones on. I don't want to keep them awake. So I'm not going to be doing much talking in the evenings, but you can watch me play if you want. Happy to chat in the chat box if you like. So that's what probably will happen. Evenings will be as I feel like playing, and then Wednesday mornings will be my regular interactive talking stream thing going on. So we're still probably 3 or 4 weeks away from that starting to be a regular thing, but ongoing, like I said, the unboxing stuff will probably also happen on Wednesday mornings. I think that's probably enough for today. That's a much longer stream than my last one. My last one was way too short. Sorry about that. If I spoke slower, it would probably also be a lot longer. I must try and do that. Public speaking is actually one of my uni subjects at the moment. I should know better than to speak at the speed that I have been speaking. But I can't see anyone, so it's a lot harder to slow down. Yeah, so enjoy that build with me. It will be finished over the next month thereabouts. And if you have any questions, jump into my Discord, pop them in either the Tech Talk or the computer build channels, and I'll answer those in as much detail as I can. When I'm streaming as well, I am more than happy to try and answer questions on anything, any topic under the sun. The job that I am currently retraining for will kind of require that a bit, so any practice I can get in answering weird and wonderful questions, particularly questions that are designed to try and put me off, go for it. I don't really mind. I don't care. So thank you for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Any questions, jump on Discord. Follow Dobby Mate as well. He's a top bloke, good fun streamer, and you'll learn a lot. He's part of Wook 6 clan on World of Warships, but he doesn't just play World of Warships. But yeah, come on, join us. I'm usually there in the background watching his stream as well. So pop along, have a chat, and I will see you next stream.